Hey, what is up guys? This is Nishi from MST.TV here, bringing you all another Market Watch episode. We are talking about a little bit of everything today, with a lot of price jumps that are gonna feel kind of random. Obviously, the big thing from this week was everyone finding out about the contents of Brothers of Legend, which looks like it's going to be an absolutely amazing set. Of course, we're another week deeper into the release of Burst of Destiny as well, which is proving to be one of the most impactful core sets that have been released in quite a long time. We have quite a few different things to talk about today, so let's jump right into today's episode. So first up, we're actually going to take a look at a card that is from Burst of Destiny itself. We have Small World. So this card was one of the more hyped up cards going into Burst of Destiny, as it's a generic spell card that effectively allows you to search for any monster out of your deck. Now you do have to go -1 here, since you have to give up a card from your hand in addition to Small World itself, but if your deck is really dependent on a certain card in order to play the game, it's probably a cost that you're more than happy to pay. Now, I'm not 100% sure exactly what strategy it is that's supposed to be using this card. I've had people mention to me that it's to do with Tri-Brigade Lyrilusk, but the deck already seems fairly consistent. If I had to guess for myself, I would assume that it's Virtual World that would use this card of all the decks in the meta right now, since you really need to see Lulu resolve if you're hoping to win while you're playing that deck. Anyways, Small World did look like it was tanking in price, and I think a couple of days ago, it was between $15 and $20 on TCG Player. However, in just a day, we've seen a ton of sales go through on TCG Player, as the card has now shot right up to the $30 price point. Obviously, being a brand new card, this card's price is going to fluctuate as people try to work out its place in the meta, and it shouldn't be reprinted for quite some time. Expect this card's price to cool back down a little bit more to between $20 and $25, but from there its price will depend heavily on just what decks are able to take advantage of it. Next up, we're going to take a look at a couple of different floodgates, the first one being Goes in Match. So much like Rivalry of Warlords, Goes in Match is the type of card that sees fluctuating amounts of play depending on the format and what decks are the most popular. Goes in Match locks each player into controlling only monsters of one attribute at a time. So for decks that play a variety of attributes or need to go into extra deck monsters of different attributes, this card can be fairly annoying. In this particular case, Goes in Match is starting to see play over in the OCG as a side deck tech in the Floowandereeze and Sword Soul matchups. Against Floowandereeze, the main deck monsters are of different attributes, while against Sword Soul, the tokens and Moyi are water, but Longyuan and Taya are different attributes, and it can also mess with what extra deck monsters your opponent can actually make. Now, I don't know if Goes in Match is necessarily going to see play here in the TCG, but it's definitely a card that's worth keeping an eye on, especially if decks other than Floowandereeze and Sword Soul get hit on the upcoming January 2022 ban list, and we see a greater shift in favor of those decks. Now, unlike Rivalry of Warlords, Goes in Match doesn't have a ton of printings. There's just the one holo printing from Hidden Summoners, which is about $3 to $4 right now. There's a Turbo Pack rare version for $2 to $3, and then there's a couple of common printings that should still only be $1 or $2 for now. If the card does become popular, we might see it get a reprint in a side set, the same way that Rivalry was reprinted as a rare in King's Court, but for now this might be a card that's worth setting aside from your bulk if you can dig up a few extra copies so that you can offload them at a slightly higher price as soon as the card starts catching on. The other floodgate card that we're looking at here is one that I don't think has seen very much play or mention recently. It is Imperial Iron Wall. So Iron Wall is really simple, preventing cards from being banished at all. Interestingly enough, this card is effective in the same two matchups as Goes in Match, the Floowandereeze and Sword Souls, as both decks need to be able to banish in order to generate advantage. It's also an effective card against things like Pot of Desires, Pot of Extravagance, and Pot of Prosperity, since your opponent cannot activate those cards under Iron Wall, since they are not allowed to banish cards for cost. This card was actually talked about over on Yassine's channel, so shout out to him for pointing out the merits of the card there. Now, in terms of this card's availability, there are two holo versions, but each of them is actually relatively difficult to find. There's the ultra rare from Legendary Collection Joey's World, which is about $5. I believe that's considered the highest rarity of the card. And then there's a super rare from an OTS tournament pack, which should be around $3 to $4. The card was also printed in the Zombie Horde structure deck as a common, so the card should still be relatively accessible if you're okay with just playing a common copy. It's hard to say exactly just how viable floodgates like Goes in Match and Iron Wall are in today's game now. With things like Evenly Matched and Lightning Storm and Harpy's Feather Duster running around, they are fairly easy to out, but if you don't draw the out, then they can really screw you over. So whether or not you like them and want to play them, is definitely going to be personal preference. If you're like me, I would definitely at least just keep a set available for in case I need to use them, but also definitely look to offload your extra copies while they are hyped up. Alright, so this is a card that we definitely haven't seen much of in a while. I think a lot of people have kind of written it off. We have Ghost Reaper and Winter Cherries. This card actually has my favorite art of all the Ghost Girl hand traps. I don't know why. There's just something I really like about this card with the colors and everything. Anyways, Ghost Reaper is a card that was really hyped up on release, but hasn't seen much play over the last several years. It's really simple. If your opponent has more monsters on the field than you do, you discard this card, reveal a card from your extra deck, and then your opponent banishes all the cards from their extra deck with the same name as the card that you revealed from yours. So in the mirror match, this card can be really effective, but it's also cool if you play something like Extravagance. You don't really need the cards in your extra deck, so you can use this in something like Flowanderies pretty effectively to hit key cards out of your opponent's extra deck and make it hard for them to play. Now, as with a lot of the Ghost Girl hand traps, this card has seen a ton of different reprints, so many that I think the prices of all the reprints haven't really changed that much. The only place where this card's price is noticeably different is in the price of the original secret rares from Shining Victories, where the unlimiteds are $5, but the first eds are actually a whopping $20, and TCG Player tells us that the card is actually moving at this higher price point. Naturally, players want the highest possible rarity, and that's the original first edition printing in this case, but it's also worth noting that you could even pick up Megaton reprints that look virtually identical for only a couple of dollars. I haven't actually seen any top deck lists that have made use of Ghost Reaper recently, so maybe it's like a sleeper tech that'll pop up after the next couple of weekends, but just as a heads up, if you have the originals and don't mind playing a lower rarity version, I would definitely at least consider offloading them while they're at this hyped up price. Alright, so this is a pretty random one, and I know we talked about this card a couple of weeks ago, but Dualist Alliance is once again seeing some hype. Now over in the OCG, we just had revealed some cards from Dimension Force, including a card called Extra Pendulum, which basically gives you a second Pendulum summon during your turn for monsters from your extra deck. So unlike Double Summon, this card lets you take a bunch of resources from your extra deck and get them onto the field once again, which is really crazy, and also it has Pendulum in its name, so it's searchable with Dualist Alliance. It's obviously not a great card to draw multiples of, but it's definitely possible that the release of Extra Pendulum could be the boost that Pendulums need to become a top tier strategy once again. Much like what we discussed last time, it's just the original printings of Dualist Alliance that have jumped. This time we're seeing these secret rare unlimited versions at $10, and the first eds at 15s. There is also an ultra rare and common reprint of the card available. I think the ultras are around $2, but the commons should be under $1 still, so you have those budget options available if you need them. We don't know much else about the contents of Dimension Force, but maybe this card could hint at a new Pendulum archetype or strategy becoming meta relevant once the set is released, so I would at least make sure that you have a set of some version of this card available for yourself to use just in case. Alright, so this one's gonna feel really random, but Beautiful Princess is a card that has gotten a bit of hype within the last day or two. The card is really simple. On summon, you can banish it to summon a level 4 or lower fish monster out of your deck. This allows you to summon Buzzsaw Shark, which can summon another fish out of your deck, and allow you to make Bahamut Shark to bring out Totally Awesome. Now, I believe that over in the OCG, the Water Ixies deck is actually really legit. With the revealing of Brothers of Legend, we just found out that we're getting the left and right hand sharks here in the TCG, as well as a couple of other water support cards. It's also worth noting that there is additional Water Ixies support coming in a Duelist pack in the OCG, which means we should be getting it in a legendary Duelist set here in the TCG sometime early next year. Between all of these printings, it's definitely possible that we could see water become a viable strategy once again. Now, if you guys have been paying attention to this card, we can actually see that it's been worth a few dollars for the last year or so. The card has only had the one printing from Primal Origin, which was quite a few years ago, and it has seen use in the OCG for quite some time. It shouldn't really be a surprise that people have been accumulating copies of this card over time. As we see from TCG Player's sales history though, Beautiful Princess has actually been moving at $5 over the last couple of days, a sign that people are potentially looking to put together and play the deck in the future. This is definitely a card to go and dig out of your bulk, since you'll probably want to offload it. When we do get that legendary Duelist set in the future, I could definitely see this card making the set and being reprinted as a common. One card that I'm going to briefly mention here is Vision Hero Ferris. So a big surprise from the Brothers of Legend reveal was that Evil Heroes Malicious Bane and Adusted Gold are going to be reprinted as secret rares in the set. Those were two of the most expensive pieces of the hero deck, and they are now going to be much more accessible than they were before. Of course, this makes heroes easier to build, and the demand for hero cards has spiked, especially given that they are one of the most popular archetypes in the entire game. One card that wasn't reprinted, however, is Vision Hero Ferris, a key card for the hero deck because it allows you to summon Vision Hero Increase, who can special summon Vision Hero Vion directly out of your deck. Remember, heroes also get a cool tool from Burst of Destiny in Destroy Phoenix Enforcer as well, so there's a lot of different pieces that the hero deck can play around with now. Anyways, for whatever reason, Ferris and Increase were not reprinted in Maximum Gold Eldorado or Brothers of Legend, so they each only have that one printing from way back in Battles of Legend Heroes Revenge. Because of this increase in demand and lack of a reprint, we've seen Ferris spike all the way up to $65 to $70 for a single copy on TCG Player, which is a pretty significant jump for a card that was already fairly expensive. From here, I think it's just a matter of when the card will finally be reprinted, though I don't think that we have any big reprint sets coming up that are confirmed yet. I doubt that it would be in Grand Creators, so we might be waiting until later in the spring to finally get a more accessible version of the card. The final card I want to look at here is one that I'm just keeping an eye on for now. It is Shaman of the Tangy. So I think that right now we are seeing that the Tangy variant of Sword Soul is the version that is the most successful, with the Tangy monsters providing a lot of consistency and utility. We've already talked in the past about Vishuddha, Ashuna, and Adhara, but one card that I think is easy to overlook is Shaman of the Tangy. This card is pretty simple, allowing you to discard a card and then special summon a worm from your graveyard. Note that it doesn't negate the effect of the monster it special summons back, so I think that this card is actually a lot more useful than people are currently giving it credit for. That being said, it just has two printings available, the original ultra rares, which are $1 or $2, and the secret rares from the Megatons last year, which are $2 to $3 each. I don't think that this is a card to go out and buy a million copies of, but it's definitely a card that you should hold on to a few extra copies of if you have some, and maybe pick some up if you can round off trades with it, especially if we see other meta decks aside from Sword Soul and Floowandereeze get hit on the upcoming ban list, and Tangy Sword Soul becomes even stronger than it already is. I don't think that this card has a super high ceiling in terms of price, but I could definitely see it hitting $5 to $7 within the next couple of months. If you're looking to play Tangy Sword Soul, I would make sure that you pick up your copies of this card sooner rather than later. Alright guys, that is it for today's episode. Some pretty interesting stuff today. There's definitely going to be more to look forward to with cards from Dimension Force due to be revealed pretty soon. A reminder that Maximum Gold Eldorado is about to be available. I wish all of you the best of luck in hunting for those alternate arts and access code in Verte Anaconda. I personally just wish cards like Nightmare Unicorn could have been reprinted as a secret rare instead of the gold rare, but oh well. Anyways guys, if you did enjoy today's Market Watch, please make sure that you let me know by hitting that thumbs up button for me. Also make sure you leave a comment in the comment section down below. Let me know what you guys think about the cards we talked about today, and also let me know what other cards are trending on the market so I can cover them in future Market Watch episodes. Also, if you haven't already, make sure you hit that subscribe button to get all of the latest and greatest content from both Tombox and myself here on the channel. And until next time guys, don't forget to hold on to your MST.TV.